This is Infants on Thrones, the philosophies of men mingled with humor. We are the Quorum.
I'm the prophet Joe Smith, I beseech you forthwith to be my wife number 29. You're several months shy of 50, and you're dutiful, so be mine. If you don't, I'll be floored by a big flaming sword, wielded by an angel divine. You're several months shy of 50, and you're dutiful, so be mine. You're my baby, practically, you're my boo. Since you were 11, I've been grooming you. I know you're devout, so you should have no doubt. But ooh, please don't let Emma find out. If you marry me, I'll exalt your family. I'll talk crap about you if you decline. You're several months shy of 50. You're dutiful, so be mine. You're several months shy of 15. You're dutiful, so be mine. By the way, my darling girl, would you mind burning this recording after you listen to it? You see, we don't want
Excuse me, sir. Burning audio?
Oh, that's right. Thank you, William. Darling, that's my secretary, William Clayton. Right, so burning an audio file means to make a copy of it, and that's the opposite of what I want. So, tell you what, my dear, burn the email that I sent you with that recording.
So you can't burn email?
You can't burn an email? Well, hell. Then you know what, my dearest Nancy.
Sarah,
my dearest Sarah. I hate to ask you to do this, but how about you just destroy your whole computer? Destroy it like a printing press, that's what I say. That usually solves everything.
Sir, the cloud?
Ah, the email will still be in the cloud. Well, you know, it doesn't matter anyway. Who's going to go poking around for that?
Fawn Brody, Mormon Lee.
You know, some days I wish I had stuck with the treasure-seeking thing. Oh, that reminds me, William.
Yes?
For next week's schedule, let's set aside that Kinderhook translation for now. There's another writing project I'd like to start working on. I call it Illinois Smith and the Raiders of the Sinking Indian Treasures.
That's brilliant, sir, brilliant.
Yes. Oh, and in other business, did I tell you what happened with those enemies of the church that visited Nauvoo last week?
No, you didn't, but sir, we should probably stop the recording here.
What the hell did I do? Killed them all, of course.
Oh, that's more than you should really say,
Well, I
sir.
mean, I didn't kill them, but when you have Danites, might as well use them, right? Those guys will slit a throat for a ham sandwich.
All right, so let's get a little started here. Definitely want to get to know you a little bit, Eric. Do you want to run with the alias yourself, or how do you want to go?
Yeah, whatever you think. Yeah.
All right. So Eric, you submitted us some songs, and they were fantastic. And in this particular episode, we'll play some of them or whatever. And then we'll let the audience, I guess.
What was your favorite, Tom?
What was my favorite?
Yeah, because I have a favorite. That's why.
Yeah. The Ode to Prophet Joe is probably my favorite. Of the 4 or 5 that you originally submitted, Eric, that's probably my favorite.
It was the 1st of October, another sleepy general conference day. I had to watch it with my family, who was visiting from far away. I made it through the morning session, didn't care what they were squawking about. But then I heard a talk later made me wanna poke my eardrums out. I thought I gotta find a baseball bat to smash this stupid TV with. When I heard silly old Tad Callister go off defending Joseph Smith. So Tad said to the members from that great and spacious conference stage, well, Prophet Joe never had a lick of brains, and he was of too young an age. Too many names and places, stories and events he couldn't make up himself. And all those books the Book of Mormon rips off were never on his shelf. By the time his talk was over, I knew I would need to drink a fifth. When I heard silly old Tad Callister go off defending Joseph Smith. Now we all know that the Prophet Joe was brilliant and as sly as a fox. But when needed for apologists, well, he was dumber than a box of rocks. And he never had those books, but wait, didn't he read the first chapter of James? Oliver's preacher wrote View of the Hebrews. Anthon's dictionary had those names. He had the opportunity and time and talent to create that myth. But still that silly old Tad Callister goes off defending Joseph Smith.
The Taperback Rider, though, it's kind of a catchy.
Taperback Rider was solid wordplay. Yeah, I was really pleased. That was my fave.
Taperback Rider. Dear Mormons, wait before you leave the pews. I have an article in the Deseret News. It explains how back in ancient Nephite times they didn't have horses, so they had to be taperback riders. Taperback rider. It might be hard for you to get this thing. It's an explanation known as loan shifting. Joseph didn't know what a taper was, so he said they rode horses, but they really all were taperback riders. Taperback rider. Taperback rider. You might be thinking something isn't right. Was the Book of Mormon translation loose or tight? If Curulons, Cumons, and C9s are words, then why couldn't Joseph just have used the term taperback riders? Taperback rider. I warn you, that sounds like apostasy. I have PhDs, so you should trust in me. It'll all make sense if you believe it's true. If you have any questions, look me up. My name is Taper Dan Writer. Taper Dan Writer. Taperback rider. I was starting to wonder, I kept sending you guys stuff and I wasn't hearing anything back. And I think I mentioned like one of my emails, like it tends to go to spam, but I was starting to think like, then you played one song on the conference episode. I'm thinking this is like one of those like back alley arrangements. Like I got to walk in here, drop off the song, then scuttle away. And then an hour later, you guys come in there, pick it up. Yeah.
We are, I mean, at least I think we are pretty notorious about not responding to a lot of the emails and stuff like that get sent in, even messages on Facebook. When I get on Facebook, I'll get these notifications that there's messages waiting to infants, and it's almost like first come, first serve to whoever gets it. And then more times than not, there's a lot of them that get neglected.
Well, we won't get the notification either. If whoever is the first one to kind of click on it, if whoever's either online or get first one in there, it'll take the notification off. So sometimes if somebody's responded, I may not see it. And I'm also just lazy and bad at responding too.
But to defend the music here, that you sent in, Eric, that you'd sent it in, and I know that it got lost in the shuffle with a few other messages, but I remember downloading or listening to some of the songs. I'm like, oh my gosh, we totally. And then I reached out to Glenn, and I can't remember if I reached. Did I reach out to you, Matt? I can't remember. But we sent it to the group or something, and didn't get any responses back. And it wasn't until we decided we were going to do the conference episode, which was kind of last minute too.
That did just come together last minute.
Because I think we were all kind of spent, like, are we going to do another conference? And then we did at the last minute. I was wanting to be on that one. That was probably one of the reasons why we got it going. But
you got to do those, man. Those are
they're pretty good, right?
Yeah.
But I remember listening to that at least the "Trying to Be Like Jesus" song, and I'm like, this would work perfect. And
they did that song in conference.
And then I sent it to Glenn. I'm like, can you use this? And he never responded back to me. And then he obviously did. He put it
ended up in there.
Yeah, right. So
I'm trying to be like Jesus. I'll follow in every way. I'll wear a long robe and sandals and start growing a beard today. I'll tell people to hate their families, and I'll tell my church leaders they're all Pharisees, saying love one another as Jesus implores. Have dinners with sinners and hang out with whores. You can burn people, drown people, and call it divine, like he did in 3 Nephi 9. I'm trying to love my neighbors. I know that I can do more. I'll save what I need for tithing, then give it all to the poor. I'll tell everybody I'm God's only son, and I'll go to the temple and whip everyone, saying love one another, kill trees without figs, throw people off cliffs like he did with those pigs, tell those wealthy apostles to sell all they've got, for these are the things Jesus taught.
Glenn and I had a conversation, a couple weeks ago. You know, he's just kind of filling things out, and he's dealing with the job transition and whatnot. And then you came up. He's like, hey, that guy that did the Trying to Be Like Jesus and the Taperback Rider and those songs. And I was like, yeah, they're pretty good, right? He's like, yeah, will you set something up? Like, we should give him his own episode and stuff.
Oh.
And I was like, yeah, we totally should. And then, of course, Glenn was supposed to be on tonight, but his wife's really, really sick. So
I'm sorry.
Otherwise he would be. But so yeah, that's kind of the origination of how this happened. But yeah, so walk us through one. Should we go back to like when you stopped believing in the church or had a crisis and stuff like that? Let's start there.
So yeah, I was an active member for 20 years, officially a member for 26 years. But I joined and was active for 1 year and then became extremely inactive.
Wait, so you're a convert?
Years. Oh, yeah. Golden convert.
When was that?
Missionaries knocking on the door and everything.
Oh, wow.
That would have been 1991 or 90.
When you were how old?
20.
Jeez.
Wow.
Yeah.
See, one of my very close friends here is in this that lives here is in the same boat, and he's an attorney and an Yale educated, incredibly intelligent guy. I mean, just really, really smart. And I just say, maybe not. And I'm just kidding. I really find it fascinating when like normal adults.
In comparison to abnormal adults.
There tends to be a vulnerability, somebody who really needs friends or, has financial needs. That tends to fit the pattern. So when you find relatively normal-ish kind of golden investigators here in the States and they get converted and baptized at like 20-something, I just think, who hurt you? I guess is my question.
Oh my gosh, who hurt you?
I mean, I could tell that story, a little bit. If you want to go further back. But, so I grew up in a German family, no religion, free thinkers and beer drinkers.
Oh, nice.
But when I hit about age 10 or 11 or something, those questions, why am I here? What's going on? All of that stuff, and it took a lot of strange paths. I did an awful lot of drugs between the age of about 13 and 20. And that was not quite so much partying as seeking higher consciousness, man, that kind of thing. But really,
13 to 20, that's the wrong time to find higher consciousness.
Right. But at a certain point, I came to Christianity of a sort, strangely through Satanism.
What?
I was 13 years old, and my couple of friends of mine and I, we were into heavy metal and stuff like that, and just like, I don't know, let's Satan, the devil, I don't know, you know what I mean?
Okay.
Like dumb stuff like that. And so,
where'd you grow up?
Buffalo, New York.
Okay.
Yeah, that explains
it.
That
explains it. I have no idea what that means.
Jeez.
It snows a lot, and I don't know.
Yeah, right.
So your mind wanders. Yeah. Anyway, so I actually took it semi-seriously, sadly, and I bought the Satanic Bible, and I would read the Bible. Our family had a Bible up on a shelf. I dusted it off. And I would look through it for references to the devil. I mean, it sounds so stupid, right? And what I realized at a certain point, this whole thing was maybe a couple of months, of my 13-year-old life. At a certain point, I realized, well, wait a minute, why would I put credence in this book? What it's talking about the devil. Because he doesn't turn out good in the end. It's like, why would I root for that guy? But somehow in the process,
is the only honest one.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, that's in the temple video you're talking about. But anyways, as part of that whole thing, oh well, hey, this Bible, what's this all about? And I was devoid of answers and meaning in my life. I guess that's the simple way to put it. Yeah. And oh, hey, well, maybe this has some meaning, right? I had never really thought about it before, and I kind of latched on to the idea of Jesus, right? And for the next several years, I became this kind of pseudo-Christian stoner guitar dude, a very, very odd kind of mix there, right?
Huh.
But I was always kind of looking for something, and the drugs kind of filled some of that. At different times, I felt like I got some kind of enlightenment here or there in different ways.
Huh. Can I ask, when we're talking about drugs, what are we talking about?
At that time, pot and acid. Some cocaine here and there, but later there's a further story during those 5 years, but that's that's later on. But I mean, in high school, my friend and I basically, we wanted to be the Cheech and Chong of our high school, and essentially were.
Okay.
In my senior year, I campaigned for biggest space cadet in the yearbook. Okay. I was actively going around, hey, vote for me for biggest space. They didn't end up printing it. I was bummed. Every year up until then they'd had one, but they stopped doing it that year. Anyway, so as around 1920, I guess what I started seeing on TV, the church's commercials.
The heart cell commercial.
Oh, yeah, heart cell. Absolutely. And around that time, one of the things that I had, started reading and looking into were things like the late great planet Earth. Do you know what that is? Hal Lindsey, all this stuff about prophecy in the end times, right?
Oh, yeah.
From a more mainstream Christian kind of point of view, but there was all this kind of stuff around. I remember getting magazines, The Plain Truth, Herbert Armstrong.
Oh man, wow.
Yep. So, and I was into all that, like, oh, something's going on, conspiratorial minded,
Sure.
I guess, or just again looking for some meaning, among the randomness. And then, so the church's commercials, I would see them, and something about it, like, wait a minute, the Book of Mormon, I don't know anything what that is, but Latter-day Saint, like Latter-day, that's what caught me.
Oh, wow.
Because, oh, wait, I believe these are the latter days because of those other things I was reading, right?
Okay.
So, this is answering your question.
So apocalyptic. So you were really into the apocalyptical.
Yes.
side.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
There's this like real sweet spot in Mormonism, like 80s, 90s, where that's with that and the Satanism and kind of not that they were into Satanism, but the occultism, kind of this. That was that definitely. I mean, I think you and I are about the same age. It sounds like, and yeah, that's definitely Rain Man experience.
So I remember at one point a friend of mine who lived in the town that I lived in, he was telling me, oh, these Mormons came over to the house and I chased them away. And, he kind of took some pride in that or whatever. But I remember thinking, oh, Mormons, isn't that the Latter-day Saint thing? Oh, well, if they come to my house, I'll talk to them, I was thinking this. I didn't say it. But and sure enough, I don't know, a few months later, a few weeks, I don't know exactly, but at some point the doorbell rang. And I went upstairs and answered the door, and I saw these two guys, and they identified themselves, and I said, oh, I was hoping you guys would come by. Now, that's not the usual reaction. People have, right?
You're the exact opposite, which I'm sure threw them off. Like, you were what? Wanting to see us? Yeah.
Yeah. From what I've heard, when that happens, it's usually people wanting to, argue with them or something.
Yeah, right. Set them up for a Bible bash. Yeah.
Yeah, no, but I was, eager to hear about it. So they came in and they're telling me all this stuff. And this all happened an hour and a half from where I had lived my whole life, right? In Palmyra. Okay. And some of the things that they're telling me kind of lined up with that pseudo-Christian whatever thing that I'd kind of built in my mind,
Wow.
Like the idea of heaven and hell, I don't know. That's too stark. And then, oh, wait, there's different degrees of things. Okay, that makes sense, So for my 20-year-old mind, it was what I was looking for, there it was. And this was 1990, so there was little means of really looking deeply into a lot of things. That's one of the things that happened later, where everything, absolutely everything that I joined the church for, there was something screwy about it. In the reality of it. So, okay. But at the time, boy, it all sounded good and all kind of, fit the puzzle pieces that I've been looking for. And it was something to be a part of.
So you were saying that like all these pieces in your mind, the puzzle pieces were falling into place because of some of your previous background and going into.
Well, yeah, like, why aren't there prophets? Why isn't there new scripture? These are like, I still think Mormonism, does a good job of sort of filling some of those gaps.
Yeah.
And that also made it easy at a certain point after I joined the church to sort of be an amateur apologist to other Christians. You know what I mean? Like that stuff to me was easy to answer, and like all the Christian appeals to the Bible and Revelation says you can't have any more scripture. Well, no, it's not, like I do think Mormonism can hold its own in that world. It can't hold its own on its own terms, or
Sure.
with its own
Right. In the context of like other not real make-believe stuff, it equally advances a plausible explanation for not real made-up shit. Yes, I'm in.
Yeah. So
I feel like a cynical bastard right now. This just shows you how detached I've gotten, I guess. But no, it's great. It's got great answers for people. Though.
But did you, Eric? Did you have like that, like spiritual sort of awakening? You know, the Moroni 10 promise thing. Like,
well, I got a story for that.
Okay.
I don't know if whatever this you want to use, whatever. But so I'd been talking to missionaries on and off, maybe for a month or so. A couple of things about the law of chastity and obviously the word of wisdom were big issues for me at the time, and I had to decide. Like, I didn't want to commit unless I could commit, right?
Right.
You say obviously, like, are you that good looking of a dude, like running over you? Or,
more of a reference.
That's so obvious.
More of a reference to the word of wisdom, as previously. Although I had a girlfriend at the time, I did, so she was not at all happy about some of that, but. No, more about the word of wisdom. Anyway, so one night, by golly, I'm going to get myself an answer, right? And at the time, my method of getting answers was to drop some acid. And so I did. And I walked out to the park near my house, which had my whole life I went there, played baseball and partied there and, fooled around and just had many, many great experiences there. And a lot of times I'd walk up there at night and just play guitar or something. So that was the perfect place to go, right? That was kind of my sacred grove. And, I walked up there and oh, by the way, I had this little light. You'd squeeze the two sides of it and it would shine a light. You get them at you used to get them at gas stations or whatever, right?
Like a little keychain light. Yeah.
Yeah, like a keychain light thing, right? So I'm using that to see my way around, and I go up to the park, and I'm sitting there for hours and hours, and I'm praying, and
on acid.
Yeah, oh yeah, and the light dies. The light, darn it, it doesn't work, and I conceived this idea that if the light can shine again, that would be a sign. Not like I'm seeking a sign or anything. Right? But anyways, this is what I'm doing. This is where my brain was at the time. So I'm pressing this thing. Come on, God, you can do this. I believe you can do this. And I remember I'm singing the Supertramp song, even in the quietest moments. Just I don't know why, but I just remember that song. Like something about
that's great.
That song is, spiritual yearning kind of thing. Anyway,
pretty sure Supertramp were druggies. I mean, did the psychedelics? Their album covers are pretty.
Okay.
They indicate that anyway.
Okay.
Anyway, so it's getting to be about 3 a.m, and suddenly I don't know if it's that I'm just tired, and although on acid, you kind of that'll sustain you for a while. But anyways, I'm tired of sitting there and doing this, I think. But I'm like, you know what? This is stupid. Would I be sitting now? This is that makes me laugh to think. Would I come out here and sit for 6 hours if I didn't already believe the church was true?
Yeah, okay.
Mm-hmm.
That was your answer.
And I was like, man, this is so stupid. Yeah, you know what? I think the church is true, and I'm going to join it. And I stand up and I start walking home, and I look at that pen light. I'm like, that was the stupidest thing ever. And I press it, and I kid you not, it lights up.
It's a miracle.
Yeah.
Sign from the heavens. Wow.
And that was the like, holy shit,
Yeah.
I wanted to like ring doorbells and stuff.
Yeah.
That wouldn't have gone well. But
you're the second person I know that. You joined the church. So you didn't. Did you do a mission?
Excuse me. I did not. No.
Okay. Well, you are the second person where acid led to a Mormon awakening. For you, it was a conversion. For another friend of mine, he just told me the story about that's what caused him to go on a mission. So I don't know. There's some connection between LSD
there's all these good experiences from tripping on acid, huh?
Data point 2 now is what we're.
There's something about the dissolution of self or something that, I don't know. But anyway, that was then I was in, and I'm going to get baptized, and I did. I think it was March 8th, 1990, I want to say. Yeah.
Wow. So
music has always been as I guess a part of your life is what I gathered. You said you're kind of a guitar playing stoner in high school, but other than just kind of interest in music, has that how much a part of your life has that been up to this point with where we're at in your life?
Well, it is my full-time job still, for the last 16 years, doing music for kids, right?
Sure.
Eric Herman. And if you'd asked me 17 years ago, I would have laughed at you to think that. But I love that. I love all of that, how that's gone. Before that, I was playing in bands, playing in coffee shops, singer songwriter kind of things.
Cool.
Basically,
sorry, go ahead.
Once I picked up a guitar at age 13, that was it.
Yeah.
I had to take piano lessons as a kid, and I wasn't very good. It was the thing of taking piano lessons while your friends are outside, riding bikes and playing football or whatever. But
a guitar, you can smoke weed around a fire,
and it's a chick magnet too,
and
right?
it's like, yeah,
that's right. That's right.
So when you joined the church, I'm interested in did your music. Did your approach to music change? Did it instruct it at all? Or did it?
A little bit. I was still doing original music and playing in bands, doing whatever kind of covers and stuff. But I think whatever my life is, some of what I write, as far as original songs, is going to reflect that a little bit. Even the kids' music, to some extent, some of it just came out of different things that happened or things I observed or that my kids did. So around that time, there was a couple of songs that I wrote that were, kind of about finding something or finding meaning in life. I rarely ever got overtly religious. I always kind of felt like I wanted to be either more vague about it, kind of like maybe U2, something like that. I didn't want to be preaching,
Oh yeah.
Just speaking from personal experience and trying to keep things broad enough where people could, where it might be more accessible. But yeah, there were some songs around that time that reflected that change a little bit. But and I remember the missionaries who baptized me would come see my band, by the way, until 4 a.m. at clubs. And
but they were doing it for a good reason, right?
They were, yes. I'm still friends with one of them, actually.
Well, that's cool, actually.
Although he left the church before I did.
Oh,
so. Cool. Anyway, so one of the things, though, when I joined the church is they don't give you a pamphlet about like here you probably shouldn't still hang out with all your friends at parties who are
maybe that's just assumed. Yeah, right.
So I was going to bars, going to parties, and hanging out, and just not drinking and doing stuff. I made the ideal driver.
Yeah, the designated driver. Yeah.
But then about a year in, at a certain point, things were getting passed around, and I didn't pass it around. I kept, if you're in a barber shop long enough, you'll get a haircut. That's the expression, at 12-step meetings and stuff. So And almost immediately, I felt like, oh, now I've done it. I can't go back to church. Like, that was probably maybe the thing I should have done, but so then, I never lost what I had of a testimony at that time, I guess. But the next 5 years descended into, really, really bad times for me. Eventually. And by fall of '96, I was shooting speedballs and doing about $150 of heroin every day.
No way, really? So
Yeah,
you're in a really bad.
That's a
place
really
then, huh?
bad idea.
yeah, and stealing $10,000 of travelers' checks from our family.
Holy
business
cow!
and stuff, so
That's a really bad.
That sounds pretty
cautionary
close
tale.
to rock bottom.
yes, yes.
So how did you pull yourself out of that? I'm really curious.
Circumstance, fortune, I mean, it all blew up, pretty quickly at that point. And thankfully, my family could have, thrown me in jail or, a lot of things could have happened.
Yeah.
They didn't. They were supportive and they scraped together what they could to put me in a detox center for 10 days.
Wow.
And the one thing about that 10 days is it cleaned me out enough. I continued to use for several months after that, but it also introduced me to the 12-step program. And that's, that's another religion / cult of its own in a way. But realistically, connecting with that, I would say did save my life.
Wow. Yeah.
But like I said, I continued to use for about 6 months after that point. I was going to the meetings and all the stuff. I just wasn't doing what everybody was telling me. One of the things, I was like, what? You've been clean for 8 years? You're crazy. I don't know. But I showed up. Like something about, like I knew I identified with everything everybody was talking about. That was the one thing in the detox when they brought a 12-step meeting in there. The one I was like, I identify. So I should probably go to these meetings, I guess. But one of the things, a good friend of mine who I ran with for the last couple of years, he died, and I went to his funeral high on the drug that put him in the casket. And I remember at the time, like, knowing, like, that was fucked up,
Yeah.
Like the meaning of that wasn't lost on me, and something about that, like me, I think that right after that point, I said, all right, I'm going to try this thing, all right, I'll get a sponsor and I'll start writing all this stuff, and long story short, I ended up with 63 days clean, went out one more time. Thankfully, that was hellish enough compared to that 63 days. I was like, whoa, those 63 days are awesome. Like, oh, what do you know? And survived that night, thankfully, and came back the next day. And I remember telling everybody, you know what? I went out and used last night, and I'm glad. And everyone's like, what? And I said, I'm glad because, like, now I know this is what I want. And, that was 20 and a half years ago.
Wow. So have you been clean now? Like for how long?
Yeah, 20 and a half years.
So that was the beginning. Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Wow.
That was it. And then, part of the 12-step thing is, I just want to say there's several ways people get clean. That worked for me. Other things work for other people. I'm not.
Yeah. Right.
I'm not pushing that or whatever, but it does work, or it did work for me. That's the best thing I can say. But part of that is, a higher power, right?
Yeah.
So I remember thinking, well, what am I going to do? Oh, I should go back to that church that I was part of before. And And I did, so that was my reconnection with Mormonism at that point.
You got active and participating and all that stuff?
Oh, yeah.
So that lasted until, I guess, you had a crisis of faith, which was what you said 3 or 4 years ago?
Well, yeah, I officially left a year ago, September 2016.
Okay.
And my shelf broke, or whatever, the term is today, in May of 2016. It's just, I don't believe it anymore. I'm done. Now what? That was the question at that point. And then, but, leading up to that, it was a few years of hanging on by different threads.
Yeah.
I think for me, the thing was, I knew about a lot of the issues, although I've learned about a lot more since the last
Sure.
year or so. It's just, man, it just never seems to end. But I knew, I fancied myself somewhat of an amateur apologist a little bit. I want to know about this thing so I can have an answer for it.
Right.
The thing is, I had some kind of answer or answer-ish thing for all these 243 things. Right?
Right.
And then what I finally realized at a certain point around May of 2016 was, first of all, why are there 243 things? And also, all of the answers that I have, how they couldn't possibly harmonize with each other. How do you, the answer I have for this requires this to have possibly happened at some point. But wait, that would contradict the answer I had for number 74, which, it's just,
it's the mental gymnastics that you have to perform to make it fit. Yeah.
Yeah. And for me, I think realizing, that the phrase where there's smoke, there's fire, and realizing there is smoke everywhere, absolutely everywhere. I mean, anything you can think of relating to Mormonism, there's some billowing smoke pouring out of it. There really is. There's something has changed about it, or something is covered up about it, or it's just literally everything. The last thing I held on to was the Book of Mormon. All the other stuff, social issues, that I didn't like a lot of that stuff. The Book of Abraham, oh man, what the heck am I supposed to do about that? But I'm still holding on to the book. Maybe he was inspired for the Book of Mormon and everything went to hell after that, right?
Right.
That was the last thing I held on to. And I was flirting a little bit with the whole snuffer Rock Waterman thing.
Oh, really?
Just not that I was gonna join the movement or something, but just as a sort of a last ditch thing.
Sure.
Because everything else was so screwy that I still wanted to believe. It's powerful. It's hard to let go of that.
Sure.
But finally, and one of the things too was realizing I actually read the Book of Mormon all the way through for the first time ever in 2015. I'd read, obviously I'd read the whole thing in bits and pieces over the years, probably several times over, but never actually sat and read it all the way through, like my stake president had challenged me to do 6 different times.
Sure, yeah.
But I finally did, and everyone says, "Oh, read the Book of Mormon. It'll," and that did not help.
It didn't.
It didn't. No.
Oh, okay.
It didn't help. Because I kept seeing all these. Wait, wasn't this from the New Testament? Like all these things that. All these, of course, I know Isaiah is quoted in there. Oh, but that brings up, what about the Deutero-Isaiah thing? But then I'm reading all these other parts of it that are just slightly reworded from New Testament. That was one of the big things. And then, reading about Jesus, kind of reveling in the destruction and drowning and burning of all the people, just right after he had just said, "Oh, forgive the people who crucified me, for they know not what they're doing," But, a few days later or whatever, let's destroy men, women, and children by the tens of thousands or hundreds of, who knows. And something about that was really, really jarring.
Huh.
Yeah. So that whole experience did not help. That was, and, I think part of reading that made me think, even if I could somehow reconcile Mormonism as being true, I don't know that I would want it to be.
You wouldn't want it to be?
Yeah. Based on what it is. The racism in the book, it's right there in the Book of Mormon. I mean, there's several points too. The polygamy, like I don't, yeah. So that was a thing to kind of realize that whatever it was, for one thing, it was very different than that thing I was sold back in 1990.
Sure.
And I didn't want what it was. I didn't want the obedience is the first law in heaven. the just all these things. Oh man. But I held on to that Book of Mormon even through all that stuff right until I listened to the Mormon expression, how to build a transoceanic vessel.
Oh yeah, that's brutal, huh?
That was the final nail.
Was it?
It was, yeah.
Yeah, John does a fantastic job breaking down which you don't really hear apologists really address that issue, and he just brings it to the table so matter-of-factly. Yeah. Right.
And I think he brings this point up. He says, it could have just been, oh, boom, I create a boat for you. Here you go, Nephi. But no, it says right in there, I forged the tools and I smelted the iron. I don't know, exactly. But, and that just, nope.
Wow.
That was the final nail among, obviously a lot of things had to happen leading up to that.
Yeah, there's already a lot of nails in the coffin, and that was just the final one. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's that's just always a reminder that at some point it's all magic. If we're going to believe in magic, why not go all the way? And he created a plane for, a Wonder Woman plane jet that's invisible, and it ferried them off to the New World. Why not?
Well, but what about? I mean, one of my favorites is the Jaredites, right? The submarines tied unto a dish or whatever.
Tied like unto a dish.
Right.
I still can't say that phrase without laughing. It's so strange.
It's funny. The last time we were together, Tom, I was walking behind you, and that's the phrase that kept coming to my mind.
Tied unto a dish.
Tied like unto a dish.
You should see me now.
Tom's got a great butt, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
So, going into a little bit of your songs, because one of the songs you had, which is not even a minute long, I think it's not even 30 seconds long, is the Book of Mormon Evidence song, right?
I could do a live version of it if you want.
Please, that would be great, because it's so short.
Book of Mormon Evidence the apologist showed to me, all about chiasmus and HM and is that it? What about no? Yeah, I guess that's it.
Yeah, when I remember when I heard that, I actually did laugh out loud. It was really well done. So kudos to you for that. That was great.
Who are some of your musical, I guess, inspirations, or for especially when it comes to the stuff you create, both the kids angle or this parody stuff? Do they exist, or is it just all you, baby?
Well, I mean, the parody thing, that's a whole other type of thing. Weird Al obviously would be the huge influence there, and SNL and Python and things like that I grew up adoring and devouring But musically speaking, probably the Beatles would be number one. Kate Bush, Frank Zappa.
Wow.
I tend to, the stuff that I try to listen to a lot of different things, but the things that I tend to gravitate towards and want to really soak in are things that where there's a voice, Kate Bush, Frank Zappa, but they explore a lot of different ideas musically around that. That was really the thing that appealed to me as doing kids music. I remember initially a couple people said, you should do stuff for kids. You like to do comedy and different things, and kids seem to like you or whatever. And I thought, well, I don't want to be Barney,
Sure.
That's what I had this perception of that's what kids music is somehow. But then I went to the library and I took out all these kids CDs, and I thought, wow, man, this is really fun stuff. And what I realized, you can do kind of whatever, different kinds of genres, rock and folk and comedy and characters and kind of whatever you want, as long as the words speak to a kid's sensibility somehow.
Huh.
And that was really, really appealing once I realized that.
Since you've been doing it for several years, do you still find it to be really fun and engaging?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. Kids are a hugely generous audience, as long as
Sure.
you're connecting.
Yeah.
I had to learn very early on, the first couple shows I did, I learned all these songs, these kids songs from the different albums I had taken out from the libraries, and I thought, oh, this is going to be great. They're going to love these. And a few of them they did, and a few of them they wandered off, and but I thought it was great, but you have to find some means of connecting or interaction. And once I realized that, then it was a lot better. Excuse me.
Cool.
Once I realized that, it was a lot better. But I still have fun doing it. Yeah, I love coming up with songs. I love performing for kids. It's a great job. It beats my last job, which was pushing paperwork around at an office building.
Yeah, right. I can imagine. I mean, just even these songs these parody songs of Mormonism or whatever, it actually sounds like you were having fun. I don't know if that's something that you like portray, or if that's like genuine, like when you're singing it or putting it together. It actually sounds like you're having fun.
Yeah. Oh, sure. And I think one of the things about doing that is it was such a. One of the things about doing that is such a left field kind of, like, it's so different for me. I don't have any stake in that per se. I'm not making any money from that or anything, Mm-hmm. So it was just literally driving for many hours on a couple of trips and just, there's an idea.
Wow.
And I need something to keep my mind occupied, monkey mind, I guess is the term for it. But, and then, General Conference comes and gives me a couple of ideas, So, it's really just for fun. I hope, I hope nobody takes offense to it, per se. Although, wishful thinking. But actually, maybe I do hope some people take offense to it. But the thing, I guess, I'm trying to be like in some of those. I'm trying to actually just put forth an argument, and to me, that's kind of fun to kind of work that out. And once you find, like, you guys are master parodists and satirists, so I mean, like what you're trying to, you have an idea, and what song could go good with this? Ted Callister, he gave that talk. Callister, oh geez, I don't know what the heck. Billy Joe McAllister jumped off the Tallahatchie Bridge. Callister, it's right there, it's in there.
Right.
And sometimes, I don't know about you guys, but I fight with stuff and oh, come on. And then eventually I have to give up on it, forget it.
Yeah.
I tried to do that. I tried to do this thing with oaks, right?
Okay.
Elder oaks. I got to do something with oaks. What has oaks in it? Oh, The Trees by Rush. I don't know if you know that song.
Right? Please. How dare you?
Oh. Yeah, that's one of my favorites. So I don't know.
Classic battle of oaks.
I tried it like the Uchtdorf wants more something, but the Oaks just hates the gays. Like, I don't know. It had Oaks right in there, and I just couldn't get anywhere with that was, usable really. But
I would have gone, there is unrest in the forest. There is unrest with the queens.
Yeah.
Queens, yeah.
All right. Yeah. I think I was like unrest in the quorum, or I don't know. Like I said, it just didn't get far enough. I felt like, no, it's not worth the effort at a certain point. But the Ted Callister thing that worked out pretty good.
Yeah, I actually agree. That did work out pretty good. What about the trying to be like Jesus?
Well, that was actually the first one.
Yeah, right.
And that at that point, I had no idea I'm going to keep doing any of these things. But that was I already told you the thing about when I read the Book of Mormon and came across that part in Third Nephi where he's reveling in the destruction of all the men and women and children, and somebody had posted something about that on Reddit or Facebook or something, and it brought back that memory to me. And something about that, the idea came, well, what about a song from a point of view of a kid trying to be like Jesus? Oh, but what if, you took it very, very literally
in
some respects,
When Jesus had his bad moments, right?
Yeah. Or he has a beard. He tells off his church leaders, Like, I don't know. I just found it amusing that, most Mormon parents would be appalled if their kid did some of those things, that Jesus actually did. And of course, exaggerating, for effect some of the time. But
of course.
And I know Jesus didn't actually whip people in the temple, but
that we know of. I don't know that there's a full story there.
And
they might have softened it a bit. Right?
Well, and I'm always picturing Jesus walking in there actually flipping over tables as well. So I don't know. I think we can all picture our own Jesus whipping people or flipping tables.
That's the one time Mormons really do focus on hippie Jesus is in primary. Like they really kind of push that hippie Jesus to the primary kids, and then they get into young men, and it's like, no, the wrathful Jesus is here. He will punish you for touching yourself, for you touching yourself. That's not the same Jesus I learned in Sunbeams.
All right. The one thing about it, he can be all things to all people at different times, or people will turn him into things for different people,
Yeah. It's amazing what happens when your entire life story is told through pseudepigrapha. You can be whoever.
Yeah, right. Yeah. I'm not sure. I don't really know what to believe anymore as a follow-up to that. But you guys actually helped me in one respect. You had Noah Rasheta.
Oh, the secular Buddhist guy, right?
Yeah, and not that I'm going to go climb a mountain or whatever, but it was one of the things that after that point in May of 2016 when I stopped believing, I remember walking my dog, and that was the moment I just sort of felt like, oh, I guess it's not true, and that just makes so much more sense.
Oh wow!
All right.
Well, you know what secular Buddhism is, right?
Yeah,
drugs. Okay.
Oh jeez,
drugs. Basically, go back to your LSD, and you've got.
Oh, God.
Kidding. I'm not saying that Noah does drugs. That's not what I'm saying.
That's exactly what it sounded like you were saying, but okay.
It did sound like that. That's not what I'm saying.
I gotta go to
the difference between secular Buddhism and
Buddhism, like non-secular or whatever.
No, I was just going to say, well, yeah, the cross section between like Buddhist philosophy and psychedelia is. There's definitely a Venn diagram there.
Yeah.
and in some cases, literally. But
All right.
anyway,
So I kind of lingered after that in a state of, well, I don't know. I guess I got nothing, and I was okay with that, I suppose. But it felt weird. It felt uncomfortable a little bit, And then I remember hearing him on Infants, and then he plugged his podcast series. So I was like, I'll fire that up. And the very first one has the story about the master and the student with the teacup overflowing, right? And the student seeking enlightenment, and the master starts pouring the tea, and it's overflowing the cup. And finally, the student says, "No, stop! What are you doing?" And the master says, "You already came here with an idea of enlightenment. Come back to me when your cup is empty. Then you may possibly receive enlightenment." And I remember, whoa, light bulb! My cup is empty.
Ah, yeah.
And that's a good thing. I hadn't thought of it that way before. And I realized that for years, Mormonism fills your cup with itself,
Yeah.
to overflowing. And it's just, I feel like people are starving a little bit, maybe spiritually sometimes, because that's all they're getting.
Yeah, it's a bunch of empty calories.
I'm not saying it's all bad, there's some good stuff in there, but anyways, for me personally, I can't speak for anybody else, but for me personally, that was a moment of, oh, hey, okay, I'm okay with having the empty cup. And so, that's kind of the direction I'm going a little bit, at least studying, learning a little bit about it.
Do you lean towards any form of spirituality at all?
Not anymore. I think and that's a weird thing with my 12-step group. I still higher power. Well, what does that mean now?
Yeah, sure.
Is it the higher version of myself that I could be, or that knows better than what I actually do?
Right.
Something like that. So I've kind of had to redefine that a little bit. I like to think there might be something. I don't want to go. I don't want to say I'm full on atheist, although I think that makes a lot of sense. But maybe there's some, the universe is big, life is big. Who knows?
Yeah.
But that's about where I am. And I'm okay with that.
maybe instead of a higher self, there's an internal self to find.
Sure. Yeah.
Like an inner child?
Or an inner deity.
Oh, yeah, I guess. I don't know. My head's swimming now.
Yeah, I mean that's Buddhism right there, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we are the divine. We're so constantly looking outward or looking for meaning externally that it may just be the meaning is internal, and is sometimes the further you go, the smaller you go, the larger. Sometimes the larger concepts are grasped.
Wow.
The difference between what's extremely small and is extreme and what is extremely large is sometimes not so different.
I had no idea.
That reminds me of a song of mine called "How Big."
How big?
Play it right now. There's an itty-bitty bug who lives on the back of a tiny bug, who lives on the back of a little bug, who lives on a hollowed-out log. The log lives on the edge of some woods, on the edge of a pond. Near the edge of the pond lives a little bug-eating frog. The itty-bitty bug thinks what he sees is everything. He doesn't know that really he's so very small. What's in his eyes is what he sees, so the itty-bitty bug will say, how big is my world? How big is my life? How big is it all? There's a girl who lives on a planet that lives near a star that lives in a galaxy where lives 100 billion other stars. The galaxy lives in a universe with billions of galaxies, and the universe lives where we can't see that far. The girl on the planet thinks what she sees is everything. She doesn't know that really she's so very small. What's in her eyes is what she sees. So the girl on the planet will say, how big is my world? How big is my life? How big is it all? And a universe might be inside a tiny speck of dust. Big and small both go to the extreme. So whether you're an itty bitty bug or a kid in a galaxy, your life is always as big as you dream. How big is my life? How big is it all? How big is my life? How big is it all? How big is it all? How big is my life? How big is it all? How big is my life? How big is it all? How big is my world? How big is my life? How big is it all? How big is my world? How big is my life? How big is it all? How big is my world? How big is my life? How big is it all? How big is my world? How big is my life? How big is it all? How big is my world? How big is my life? How big is it all? How big is my world? How big is my life? How big is it all? How big is my world? How big is my life? How big is it all? How big is my world? How big is my life? How big is it all? How big is my world? How big is my life? How big is it all? How big is my world? How big is my life? How big is it all? How big is my world? How big is my life? How big is it
Now it talks about the incredible bigness and smallness of the universe.
Oh,
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
I had no idea.
Hey
you had it all
kids, you live
figured
in an incomprehensibly large universe.
Yep, both ways.
Yeah.
Meaning to go microscopic, it's a pretty large universe as well. Anyway.
You had it all figured out, Matt.
No,
Buddhism-
that's the thing. I've got nothing figured out.
I
Which
don't know.
is,
You talked like you had it all figured out. I mean,
I've got a few things figured out.
Okay.
What I do have figured out is, I think what I have figured out is that there is no answer. There is, as Carl Sagan said, there is no one is coming to save us from ourselves.
Mm.
So if we constantly look external for people to save us, I think that's problematic.
really? Okay.
Yeah. Help is not coming from above. That I am confident of.
I agree. One of the last things right before, before I had to, when I stopped believing, I had to think, how am I going to tell my girls, right? They were 11 and 13 at the time.
That's tough.
And so we watched the movie Cumorah. Have you seen that?
Oh, yeah,
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
We did. I think we did an episode on it.
I think so.
I didn't hear that. I have to look for that. But just the idea that I wanted to kind of leave them with the idea like what we experienced wasn't terrible. You know, there was some things we got from that, we gained from that. We can, take that with us. But at a certain point, if it's not true, you know, you can leave it aside and realize that what was important was, as you said, what's inside of you. You know, seeking for that and trying to follow the best of your own source of guidance or inspiration.
Yeah, it's very. I think when we really identify ourselves as being truly godly or divine or whatever, I think things become both miraculous and I don't think
laughable.
Maybe, but I just we kill ourselves so much. We're so self-critical, and you know, seeing the divine in ourselves, I think can help. And you know, and I say it all the time. The things that we can do, the things that we do, from creating, whether it be creating life, creating music, creating art, creating, you know, writing, the things that we do, we create, we destroy, we have the ability to touch and to heal and to crush. I mean, if that's not godly, I don't know what is. I mean, God would look at us and just be embarrassed at how little power and how little impact he has on life, while we go around just affecting things everywhere we go. And if that's not godly, I don't know what is.
Right. And that's what a lot of the great religious leaders said. Kingdom of heaven is here. It's now. It's, you know, you are it. I think that's the
I think Jesus
kind of
stole
meta
that from somebody a lot smarter, but
Oh, Jesus.
all this best shit was ripped off, Tom.
Plagiarist Jesus.
Plagiarizing Jesus.
That's what Joseph patterned himself after, you know, one of the greats.
Yeah, that's right. Joseph. Well, as an attorney, that is also a skill, is to know who to steal from and when to steal.
There's nothing new under the sun, and certainly music. I mean, I like to think, oh, this is an original idea, but I had years of absorbing all kinds of things, and somewhere in there, you know, there's something I'm copying from a Beatles song or something unconsciously, hopefully.
Yeah, or there's only a limited number of.
It's only 12 notes. Yeah,
and all those things. At some point, one of my favorite new musicals and the music my kids have been going through is Evan Hansen, Dear Evan Hansen, and there's a song in there that it's "You Will Be Found," and it has the same kind of I guess chorus or at the end as a song from the Forgotten Carols, and it just kills me that's the only song I can hear in my head when that song comes on, is this shitty song from Michael McLean's Forgotten Carols. Anyway.
All right. That was a weird tangent.
That was a weird tangent. That's where my mind went.
Michael McLean. You know, a lot of people love that guy. I don't know if you know that, but yeah.
Michael McLean?
Yeah.
I met him once. He was nice. We tried to out how to influence people each other.
Hey, I got a work
Really?
call coming in, Tom. I'm going to push pause or push mute for a little bit.
You're going to what?
He's muting for a little bit.
Oh, okay.
He's got a work call.
All right.
Anyway.
Well, while we have Captain Tangent on pause, why don't you tell me a little bit more about these songs, the Taperback Rider, the several months shy 15 song, and
that's my favorite.
Is that your favorite?
I don't know, something just like how that fell into place. I'm like, you know, usually I'm thinking of some concept, right?
Okay.
And you know, one of the things that really, really bothers me still, maybe even more than it did previously, as I've learned more about it, is the whole polygamy, polyandry, that whole, oh man, it's just so huge of a thing. And well, I should cover that, you know. And you're writing a parody, and you're thinking, well, what song could fit on there? And you know, I didn't know that it was possible for You're 16, You're Beautiful in Your Mind to get creepier. But there it is. There it is. You're several months shy of 15.
I mean, I remember when that essay came out, and I just couldn't believe that was like on text. Several months shy of 15. I just it still blows me away. Like, okay, I guess that's a very coy way.
I think it's almost hilarious. Like,
it is. It is.
You remember when Bill Clinton said he didn't inhale, right? And it became this, like, I think he did that on purpose. Like, he knew it would be a thing. I think. I don't know. And it was funny because of that. And it created some buzz and some, jokes in SNL and everywhere else. But
yeah,
it's almost like that. Like, they had to know that was going to be that was going to be mocked in a future parody song.
They had to have, because I'm just picturing, like, when they're writing several months shy of 15, and then somebody's saying, "Don't you mean 14?" No,
but that sounds bad. Several months shy of 15 sounds better.
Yeah, right.
Somehow, slightly.
She's almost 15. See, that's better than 14.
It's still really bad. But,
yeah, it is.
And that, I don't know, the whole thing at the end was just this kind of little goof. But I hadn't gotten anything there about burning the letter. Right, that was the thing. So I figured, well, I got to get something in there, and well, maybe I'll do this little kind of outro comedy piece or whatever, and that kind of morphed into all these different things too. But one of the things I just occurred to me recently, somebody may have posted this on Reddit or whatever, but we have that one letter that says "burn this letter," and they didn't burn it. How many other letters were there that were burned?
Oh,
just for some reason I hadn't thought of it that way, but man,
scary thought.
Yeah, probably many.
Yeah,
but I don't know. I just that's probably the one I had the most fun with. and that to be honest, like the other ones, I think they're critical, but I feel like it's more about the points I'm making. Several months shy of 15 has that, but I am also getting a little bit testy, a little snarky in there, I think, with that one.
Yeah.
I couldn't quite resist. So
that's fun.
I wondered at a certain point, like, I don't know, do I want to do this? Or obviously I came up with the Weird Alma concept as a way to categorize it or whatever. But
yeah,
do I want people to know? And what I realized was, if they're bothered by me, kind of shining a light on that, poking a little fun at it, but not bothered by the actual thing.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And that's when I kind of realized, yeah, you know what? I'm okay with that.
I remember Jake talking about almost the exact same thing when he's putting out his Brother Jake videos, thinking that, when this falls into, believing Mormons view screens and they're watching it, and he's like, they could take offense to it, and they think that I'm, just full on mocking it. And I remember him saying almost the exact same thing you said, is like, well, how would they not be offended to the real problematic things that I'm addressing?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, that's what you should be offended about, not the fact that I'm kind of taking a satirical approach to it, just problematic issue.
Right. It's funny because I watched his videos, maybe a couple of years ago before I had left, and man, that's brilliant. And obviously I knew, he was being satirical and everything. I'll never forget though the first full episode of Infants on Thrones that I listened to, because before that point I wouldn't allow myself to listen to a whole episode.
Okay.
Because I was still an active, vaguely believing Mormon, and like I loved it. Like, oh man, this is right up my alley, satire and comedy and some music here and there, and just like I loved what you guys were doing, but I would feel just 5-10 minutes into certain episodes, like, nah, I can't do it. It's just,
So what was the first episode?
You did the Bednar Smackdown.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that was the first one that I listened all the way through, and that was I think something like February or March of 2016. So I wasn't out yet, but it was almost like I had crossed a threshold.
Yeah, right. Point. Your virginity with infants had been broken.
Yeah, I knew. I don't know. Something has changed here.
Slippery slope.
Yeah,
that's fun.
But it was brilliant.
Cool.
You guys are brilliant, all of you.
Well, thanks. I mean, but the music you put together, you're brilliant. I'm I'm not trying to wash your balls too much, but I mean it's actually pretty damn good.
Oh, yes, thanks, man.
There was quite a few conversations that I feel bad that it didn't get back to you until at least now or when we finally reached out to you. But yeah, you'd a lot of these songs made an impression. It was pretty damn good. So, well,
I got a few more coming.
Oh, really?
Oh, if I can use this forum, your giant worldwide audience, right. I'd like to make a couple videos of some of these things. I have some skills in that, but I could use somebody who is more in the video side of things. To put some. I have some ideas. I can do storyboarding or whatever, and help with that. But somebody who's savvy with video or maybe illustration, stuff like that. If you please connect with me at some point.
Yeah.
Because I'd like to do some of that. But I have a few more in the works. I'll give you a couple of teasers.
That'd be great.
There's the talking about racism in the church, using a song called "Ivory and Ivory."
Okay.
I'll just leave it at that for now. Speaking of Bednar, my favorite.
Your favorite.
There was this thing recently. Jonathan Streeter, I'll give him a shout out. Thinker of Thoughts, right? He noticed there was a meeting that Bednar was speaking at, and at the end of the meeting, his wife stood up, and then she realized that he hadn't stood up yet. And she looked horrified and mortified and sits back down. You can see it right on the video. It's kind of chilling, actually,
Okay.
And so I'm doing a parody of the Police song that's "Don't Stand Up Before Me."
Oh, that sounds great.
Don't stand so close to me, but. And a couple other things. In a very broad sense, I don't know if I'll ever do this as big as I imagine it, but a more it wouldn't be full length. It wouldn't be like an hour long. It would be maybe a 10-minute thing that sort of piecemeal parodies the Pink Floyd album. Instead of The Wall, The Shelf. Something like that. But
sure.
All in all, it was another Weight on the Shelf or something like that, but I don't know.
Cool. You're still on? Are you still on, Matt? I just got your text. Okay.
Maybe you could take a hand at parodying ex-Mormon world, because really, if you think about it, it's not that much. It's not that much different than the Mormon world. So I say ride the wave of the next wave of Mormon-centric media is to poke fun at the ex-Mormons. So I say get in front of that wave and do that. That's what I'd like to see. I'd consume that. I'll be honest. That's it. What I'm saying is cater towards my interests.
Yeah, do what Matt wants. Screw what the larger public and screw what you think's a good idea, Eric. Just
I'm very intrigued with the similarities between the Mormon world and the ex-Mormon world. I think it's a difference of degrees. So anyway, that's why I bring that up. But.
Sure. I mean, obviously, we're still interested in the same subject, You know,
I'm actually saying more that our
the politics of it or the social.
No, the entire approach, the mindset, we just do the same things. It's really good. Oh gosh, I'm trying to remember the other day something happened. I'm not coherent tonight, guys. Sorry, but I'm trying to contribute, but I'm not doing a good job.
Something happened the other day.
Somebody pointed out how incredibly Mormon. I know what it was. It was as we were commenting on how when ex-Mormons go through, and post like, here's the drinking I do, or look, hey, I'm going to this place where I'm wearing,
Yeah.
You go through that progression of like basically burying their non-testimony.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
We can't just not do that. We have to communicate, through testifying that I no longer believe, and let me show you how I no longer believe. I drink and I wear tank tops and depending on my state, I smoke marijuana even. And
look at my new liquor cabinet. Yeah,
right. It's like, we just Mormons got a morm even when they're ex-morming.
It's true.
We have this. Just because we were brought up with this, with these cultural markings, and it's just hard to shed those so much. Although I did want to ask you, Eric, do you sometimes feel that you really have no one to blame but yourself, since you were a convert? So as you kind of process this, I'm interested how being a convert, if that came to play at all, as you decompressed and processed your way out of the church.
Sure. I'm not sure that it did. By that point, it would have been 26 years. I felt pretty connected.
No, I just mean that it was your fault rather than your parents. Like, Tom had no chance. This is like the only thing we could have. Right. You kind of did it to yourself.
I don't even think of it as fault per se. James Randi said something about we don't believe what we want to believe. We believe what we need to believe. I think at the time I needed to believe something, and there were some good aspects to that. I don't look back on it with regret too much. A little bit in some respects, but I met my wife.
Yeah, but you got to do all the sex and the drugs and the heroin. You didn't really miss out on much.
Jeez.
Oh, I see.
So,
okay.
Right.
I got you. I'm
No, there's nothing to get. I'm just grab assing. I really don't have a point.
It's interesting that talking about not regret. That's something I've struggled with the last couple of years, because I find myself kind of getting swallowed up in the regret, wishing that I wouldn't have given so much of my time, so many years, so much money to the church.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if there's a really good answer for it. I think you just kind of have to work your way through it, but I don't know.
No, there's definitely real loss. There's no question, and it can be, it can be tough. Well, my loss is in not bringing up my kids, for the period of time that we brought up our kids in the church, and this is the program, and that is not having those years to instruct the kids differently. I guess that's been a big one, especially as my 13-year-old now. I mean, shoot, we're 10 years. I mean, she was baptized. We left right as she was baptized, so 8. Even though I was a non-believer before that. I mean, just to see kind of the difference in, between the older two is just there is regret and there is loss because of that, because it impacted other now adults, formerly young adults, whatever. But
do you mean in the respect that she doesn't have some of the same value system or support system that the church
she's
has?
Woke. She's woke AF.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, she just fucking gets it.
Yeah.
And I feel like It makes it easier. It's really interesting to have a conversation with a 13-year-old, which is, you should really question everything I tell you and question everything that your teachers tell you. Really to be able to teach those principles of seeking knowledge and not having dogma that needs to be reinforced is very, very freeing. And in many ways, it was very freeing for her, I think, to not feel like she has to fit things into a box, and then things start to fit together a little easier, you know?
Well, and I think looking back on even my own life, the one thing that I wish more than anything that either came from my parents or schooling or something is developing critical thinking skills, like you said. Just being able to analyze things, kind of pulling yourself objectively away from these ideas or these lessons that are coming at you and say, all right, let's make sure that we're looking at everything a little more balanced here, and then kind of weighing out the pros and cons and going that way. It took me till I was a friggin' adult before I started doing that shit.
Yeah. Oh, man. I just told my daughter the other day, which I was showing her a Tim Minchin video to reinforce some idea that we were talking about, and we were talking about how little we really know, you know, and how the more we know things, you know, the sometimes the less clear, the less sure we are about things, and kind of talking about those things. And and she says, I'm like, oh my goodness, I mean, I'm 13 years old and I can't believe just now I've just realized, I mean, I know nothing. Like, yeah, try having that realization at like 35.
Yeah, so. Right. You're welcome. When I was in my 30s. Yeah. All right, I'm going to end this. Thanks so much, Eric, for all your work and submitting it and just being patient and coming on. It's freaking awesome.
Yeah, sure.
Ivory and ivory live together in the Mormon hierarchy. Side by side, they're examples of glacial racial diversity. We've all seen that people are the same in the top 15. They're all old and white, wealthy businessmen, and they do not speak for the poor and meek around the world who represent every ethnicity. Ivory and ivory live together in Mormon history. Side by side, Orson Hyde and Brigham Young made this racist legacy. It's too late when 40 years have passed in 78 to declare your church isn't racist if you did not replace apostles with a race that wasn't always white as the snow 19 times in a row. Ivory and ivory live together in Mormon theology. Side by side, they're in Alma and Nephi. Oh my, can't you see? Ivory, ivory, living in perfect bigotry. Ivory, 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 living in perfect bigotry. Ivory.
Hi, this is Eric, aka Weird Alma, from Washington State, and you have been listening to me and Matt and Tom blather away on Infants on Thrones. If you have kids, and let's face it, if you are or were Mormon, you probably do, Then look up Eric Herman on YouTube or Google to check out my kids' songs and videos. And then please buy like 200 copies each of all of my CDs and DVDs. That would be really awesome. Go to ericendress.com, that's ENDRES, if you want to check out an album I released about all of that wacky addiction recovery stuff we talked about. That's completely free, but please note that there are naughty words in one of the songs. You've been warned, though, so don't send me angry email. Send angry email to tom@infantsonthrones.com. Oh, and there's also weirdalma.com for all of those silly little parody songs, free for the taking. You can comment on this episode on the website, infantsonthrones.com. And if you really like what you hear, give the Quorum a 5-star rating and write a short review on iTunes. I did, and they didn't even hold a gun to my head. It was a flaming sword. Anyone for the closing prayer? Don't forget to bless the chocolate-covered deep-fried Twinkies, that they might be nourishing to our bodies.
And please consider donating to us for as little as $1 an episode through Patreon. You can find us at patreon.com/infants. Thanks for listening, and thank you so much for your support.
Thank you for listening to Infants on Thrones.
You say the church isn't true and you're planning on leaving today. You'll cry in your tea and your coffee while we watch you wither away. You'll be sad with hours and hours every Sunday and nothing to do. It will drive you mad with 10% more of your income burdening you. You'll be back, wait and see. You will miss the pure misogyny. You'll be back one of these days, and you'll help us keep on bashing gays. Temples rise, the growth rate falls, but we'll keep on building swanky malls. And if you just won't return, we will keep on bringing cookies to your house until your bosom feels the burn. Da 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 ya da 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 ya da 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 ya da 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 da. You say our doctrine's hateful and you can't abide, but you should just be grateful God's on our side. And we can't change the doctrine, 'cause it's eternal doctrine. But when we change the doctrine, we'll say that it's the doctrine forever and ever and ever and ever and ever. You'll be back, it'll be great, and you'll help us buy more real estate. You'll be back just the same, with an asterisk beside your name. You'll have doubts and you'll have fears. We don't care as long as your check clears. And if you can't be cajoled, we will tell your friends and family to avoid you till you come back to the fold. Da 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 ya da 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 ya da 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 ya da 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 da. Everybody. Da 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 ya da 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 ya da 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 da. I mean, really, where will you go?